Hey there, folks. So our next activity that we're going to be doing is acrylic paint pouring, and if you've never done it, it's really pretty awesome. I've got a couple of books here. I'm just going to show you some examples of ones from the book because there's really some really amazing ones in here. There's many different ways that you can go about doing this, which is pretty cool. And it's a lot of experimenting, which makes it even more fun. So I've provided folks at home with materials that you can do this with, but you are going to have to mix your paint. So you've gotten quite a bit of it from me, and you're going to need to put in some flow medium, and it kind of looks like a really kind of wet jelly sort of white paint. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to mix 1 part paint to 3 parts your pour medium. And with this, you know, if you don't have exact measurements, okay, just know that however much paint you put in, you want to multiply that times 3 for the pouring medium. So once you've got that in there, the other thing you want to do is if you want to create cell development, like you can kind of see here, these little pieces right here are cells. You're going to want to put in some of the silicone, okay? And what that does is it creates some cell development, which is really cool. Like you can see right here on the orange, it's really awesome stuff. Now, if you happen to have a butane torch at home, that also can pull out cells, which is very, very cool. And if you don't have access to one, that's okay. Here's an example of a butane torch right in here. But I've given you a variety of canvases. Now, there's no reason you can't practice with this on, say, you know, wax paper or on some kind of, what do I want to say, aluminum foil. But whatever you do, make sure that you have some paper or something under your workspace. For folks at home, I'm going to give you a tray. This is just a fast food kind of tray, or frozen food tray, I should say, that I put some sticks and tape them on. And the reason for that is because that is going to hold your canvas. Now, you can use this any size canvas. I'm giving you a bunch of little ones so that you have multiple ones to play with. But before you get too far into this, you want to put painter's tape or scotch tape, something on the back of your canvas with tacks. Now, the reason for this is we're putting the tape on the back so that later when this canvas is dry, we can easily peel it off and the back of the canvas isn't messy. And then the thumbtacks are so that when we transfer this to a plate of some kind, it's still, there's space for any of the paint to fall down. So I'm going to put this on here. Now, again, like I said, there's many different ways to do this. You can actually start by adding white or black right to the surface of your canvas. And what that does is it creates a bit of a, just looking at the top of this, realizing there might be little thingies in there. Oh, no, right here. Oh, interesting. Oh, I didn't realize that when I filled these, it was going to automatically make a little cover on it. So that's kind of cool. So what it does is it kind of just makes the top of your canvas kind of slick, which is kind of nice. Now, typically in the examples, they show you using white. I like to use black, but for this demonstration, I'm actually going to use white. So I'm using a piece of a, all my words are disappearing. I'm using just a popsicle stick, part of it. You can see the paint's going to start to drip down the side. You can always use rubber gloves with this if you like. You're more than welcome to do that. I usually don't, which is why my hands have paint all over them. But it's okay. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Now this, what I've done for students in class is I have pre-mixed the pouring medium into bottles, and it also has the silicone in there as well. So for you at home, you'll want to do that. You can use cups. This cup is actually, you don't want to fill it with paint. It's too much paint. But what they do advise is actually when you get started, the first thing you want to add to this actually is some white. So put some white in the bottom. Now what you're doing with this is you're creating what's called the dirty pour. okay? I know it sounds a little provocative, but I promise you it's really nothing to be worried about. And I just got to take off all these little tops now because I realize I got them. Now, there's no reason why you can't, say if you wanted different levels of value with these, you could totally mix those. And I would advise playing with that rather than just using the straight color. But for the purposes of this example, that's what I'm going to do. You want to make sure that with acrylic paint that you're using, this is some gold that I mixed up here. You definitely want to make sure that you add some water, because the acrylic paint that we have here is very thick, and that's what I've given you. If you have acrylic paint that's pretty liquidy already, you may be in good standing. When in doubt, add just a touch of water, not so that it's too liquidy, but just enough to get it moving, and just know that white paint is going to require more. Okay? All right, so now I think I'm going to do a second layer. Now you can add as many layers as you want. It's entirely up to you. Again, it's all an experiment, and I'm doing this live, so I hope that it works out. That would be terrible if it didn't. There we go. All right, now, the next thing you can do, you have a couple of choices. You could just pour it, or you could flip the canvas over and flip it over, put your canvas on top, and then flip the whole thing. And I've been playing around with that, and that's kind of fun. But because this is such a small canvas, I'm actually, I'm just going to pour it. Pour it this way. This drizzle on. Okay. And I'm already thinking that some of this paint might be a little bit on the thick side, but I'm loving the way the gold is looking here with this. Now, if I had more time, I would definitely think about my color combinations, which you absolutely can, but I'm loving the intensity of this gold. And so you can tip your tray and let it travel a little bit. You can take the side of your stick and just kind of touch a few areas. You can hold the side of the canvas if you need to tip a little bit. I'm looking and seeing that there's a chunk, I think, of something on there that I don't particularly like. And you can decide if you want to leave, and I'm just going to nudge that off because that looks like a chunk of paint, which is a little bit icky, and just very gently kind of move some of this together. I don't want to touch it too much to destroy the integrity. But there's lots of different things that you can do. And now I'm just going to touch it slightly with my butane torch and see what happens. Hopefully I don't set off a fire alarm, because that would be pretty awful. There we go. So now you can start to see some of those cells coming up, which is really interesting. If I pull this a little bit closer, I think you might be able to see. It's a little bit bright. But you can see some of those cells developing, which is really pretty cool. And I'm absolutely loving this gold. It's so much better than mine. So always get your edges, but when you're ready, what you can do is you can take this and take a couple of these if you want, and then just carefully just pick it up and set it aside so that you can let it dry on its own. You can kind of see where the white that I pre-put down is coming out, and that's what I like to do. Personally, I like to do black, but that's just me. What you decide to do is entirely up to you because it is your piece, but I would definitely play around with color, see what you can create, and have fun with it, because this is a super fun process. So definitely, if you have any questions, just let me know. But I think you're really going to enjoy this. It's a lot of fun. Definitely let these sit for at least 24 hours, maybe even 48, just to make sure, because you'll want to make sure they're dried down before you touch them again. All right, any questions, just let me know.